Seconds, please, Chris.
Madam Kelman, the new Children's Act comes in October. It calls on separated parents to be more responsible for their children. What hope do you think it has?
Oh, I think it's a very positive move.
Well, what difference is it going to make?
Well, I think the difference it's going to make is that in the past, parents, when they separate, have not actually been encouraged to be responsible jointly for their children.
But surely that's part of your job, isn't it?
Well, no. You see, in the past, parents have far too often have been fighting from their own corner, and the children, sadly, have been used as pawns in this game and have suffered quite a lot.
But don't you think they still will be?
Yes, they will, but we're hoping that it will ease the situation.
How?
Because we want to encourage parents in that situation to focus very much more on the needs of their children rather than what they really want out of the situation.
But what chance have you got of that happening when the parents have obviously acted very irresponsibly in the first place, haven't they? They've abandoned, or at least one of them has, abandoned the children.
The parents very rarely abandon their children.
Well, they've left one or more of the partners as well.
Yes, indeed. But I think our experience in the last few years working up to this act is that parents will talk to each other, particularly if there's a third person there, like ourselves, to make them look at what is best for their children.
So how will this actually work? I mean, what sort of teeth will this act have?
Well, it doesn't have teeth, but one of the things we're aiming for is that we're going to try and persuade the judges and the magistrates that when there is a dispute over where the children should live, particularly, that they should always first ask for an appointment with a court welfare officer. Then you get the parents together, you talk to them about what they think is in the best interests of their children, and you attempt to get them to agree about that, if it's possible.
Isn't it true to say that largely this situation has come about because of the greedy lawyers and solicitors?
Well, there's a lot of money in divorce and separation.
And in fact, the prime consideration tends to be who's going to get custody of the house and the car.
Well, that comes into it a lot, but we're trying to get the parents to concentrate on the children. So
it's very difficult for them to concentrate on the children when they've got a rather sharp lawyer whispering in their ear saying, if you stick out for this, dear, you can get £20,000 instead of 10.
Well, solicitors in the past, it's perfectly true, have concentrated much more on what their client is asking them to achieve for them. But in the same way that we've changed over the years, solicitors are changing as well.
Yeah, but this act isn't going to change a solicitor, is it?
Well, solicitors are being better trained now to deal with these kind of domestic situations where
but
children
as you
are at
said,
risk.
divorce is big business.
It always has been big business for some people, yes. But not for the children.
They're the ones who are going to suffer. You think this is going to change this?
Children have suffered a lot in the past. I mean, it's difficult to provide figures, but we know that many children that commit offences later on in life are a product of a broken relationship. And anything that we can do to try and avoid that must be worth doing.
But surely in that case, if parents know that, they're acting irresponsibly in separating in the first place. Wouldn't they be better staying together for the sake of the children?
Well, that's an argument. The children want them to stay together. If you ask children, 99 out of 100 will say, we want to live with both our parents.
But nobody asks the children, do they?
We do, when we're asked to get into reports, but we try to avoid reports because we want to make parents take that much more responsibility for their children.
Part of your job is actually sorting out the access and custody, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So you can actually be a great leader in this process.
The courts normally, if we do an investigation, will carry out our recommendation, yes.
That's a big responsibility.
It is indeed.
So what makes you qualified to decide which parent gets the child?
We have to interview all the necessary people, talk to the parents, see what they have to say, look at all the circumstances.
But isn't that in itself a divisive process?
Hopefully not.
Well, you're looking at who's not suitable, aren't you? It's a competition.
No, we're not. we're not, you see. We are not trying to make it a competition at all. We're trying to say to the parents, look, these children, if you decide to split, can only live with one of you. That's a fact of life.
And at that point it becomes a race.
It becomes a dispute.
Who's best?
No, not who's best. That's why we try to get the two parents to sit down.
Okay, one last question. In cases like that, where you do have to make the decision, what are the percentages for women getting custody or men getting custody?
Mothers get custody much more frequently than fathers.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's partly tradition, particularly with very young children.
So you would
that
say
it's
that
still
in fact,
seen by the law.
in that situation, the men are actually discriminated against?
Fathers, I think, have a more difficult time to get the custody of their children, that's right.
And do you think
They
that
do.
is reasonable, or do you think that's just because of, as you say, prejudice and tradition?
We try not to judge that at all. We really try to say to ourselves, which is the best parent for these children to be with?
But a father has a lot less chance, doesn't he?
With very young children, yes.
Even if he's the better parent?
I would hope not if he's the better parent, but all too often it's a very fine line.
Thank you.
Well done, Bill. You handled that very skillfully. Very good.